The Italian Radio Hour is sponsored by Istituto, Mondo, Italiano.
Mozilo matado,
Buonasera a tutti. Good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Stefano.
E io sono Viviana. Ciao Stefano, come stai stasera?
Non c'è male. Tu come stai?
Benissimo, benissimo.
All right. We want to welcome back our listeners from last week, as well as any new listeners. And also, we want to welcome our listeners who are listening as we stream this online at khbradio.com.
Benvenuti se vi sintonizzate per la prima volta e bentornati se avete seguito anche il nostro primo episodio la settimana scorsa. As we said last week, this program will have some segments in Italian, some segments in English. We'll try our best to keep the entire audience up to speed with what's going on here at the radio station, but it's always going to be about stories of people that love the Italian culture just like you. So if at any point you want to share your story with us, want to sponsor an episode or dedicate it to someone special, please send an email to the italianradiohour@gmail.com and we will get in touch with you.
And also, please be sure to follow us on Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour. Okay, Viviana. So last week we had Cornelia and Francesca from the Italian Women USA. And again, the whole purpose of that conversation was to kind of introduce Italian women and these businesswomen that are traveling here to the United States, to kind of make them aware that there's a networking opportunities for them.
That is indeed. So both Cornelia and Francesca were two lovely ladies that have come to the United States, and they're all very involved in this network that is nationwide of Italian women to create, again, a circle of support, whether it's in business or just trying to navigate through some of the paperwork that we have to go through when we move to the U.S., or some travel updates and so forth.
And as someone who's traveled all over the world, there is never, and it doesn't matter what country you go to, there's always going to be the joy of paperwork. I think another important visitor was La Befana, who was very kind and brought me some goodies. In fact, when I opened up the goodies, I thought for a second I got coal. But it turned out to be nice, big, large pieces of sugar that look like coal, and for the record, were very delicious.
La Befana was so happy to make her way to Pittsburgh. She actually gave a baking class on Saturday live from her Befana kitchen, and it was so heartwarming to see her working with these lovely children, both in the U.S. and also in Italy. So there were people that connected from all over, and we do hope that also our episodes and our Italian Radio Hour gets indeed listened to both here in the U.S. and in Italy, and we do actually know that it's happening. So. Last week I gave you a little bit of a language trivia, Stefano. How did you do with that?
You did. Mica pizza e fichi. And let me tell you, first I want to say thank you. We had some listeners that emailed us kind of what their thoughts of mica pizza e fichi. And before I tell you what I think, I'm going to tell you some of the things that some of our listeners thought. So, for example, Roseanne emails in and she says it's a white pizza of garlic, mozzarella, and olive oil topped with figs. And then she recommends this pizza. And I'm thinking, well, I personally have never had a pizza with garlic, mozzarella, and olive oil topped with figs. Is that something new? Should I have heard of that? Or
I don't know, but any pizzaiolo listening might want to do some testing and figure out how it goes. Maybe I'll take the garlic out and just keep pizza and some prosciutto, maybe?
Maybe. I'm usually onions, black olives, and mushrooms. That's
okay.
My Fusco. So, of course, Mary and Jennifer both said, not pizza and figs. Well, literally, that's what it translates to. And I think that Nicole was the closest when she said, mica pizza e fichi is something like maybe serious or important. So, I kept trying to look around and figure out what does this mean. And a lot of times people were trying to do it literally, and I don't know. You tell me, what does it mean?
Okay, so for those of you that have been looking it up, is we usually use this expression "mica pizza e fichi" when it is not something that is ordinary, something that is special. So, for instance, this radio show, "Mica pizza e fichi."
Hai ragione. It's a volte. In fact, I think just trying to these phrases. When you translate things and try to put things in context of other languages, it's, for example, when you came here, did anyone ever say to you, break a leg? And you probably thought, why? Do you hate me? You want me to break a leg? I don't
no,
understand.
please.
so, when we kind of share these phrases with you, be careful you don't see things literally, because if someone says break a leg, for example, in English, you obviously, I don't want you to break a leg. So we're going to keep giving you these little trivia gems, and hopefully we love it when you respond. We love to hear what people think, and especially when you're just learning the language, and for the first time, you're going to hear these things and you are going to be like, huh? So want you to enjoy that. We're going to keep throwing them out there every week. And Viviana, we are going to have a special guest here in a little bit, and we're hopefully going to learn some more cliches. So what do you think? We're going to bring on our special guest here in a few minutes, and kind of excited to hear that.
Sure. And while we're getting our special guest connected, how about our little pubblicità?
Pubblicità.
Parli italiano?
So, do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org.
So, welcome back from this little commercial break. And so today's guest really needs no introduction. When we announced on our Facebook page that Dr. Joseph D'Andrea would be on the Italian Radio Hour, you should have seen the beautiful messages that started to pour in. And if we do some extra time at the end of the episode, I would like to read some of them to what I personally call a Joe. Someone called him Peppino, so maybe Mr. D'Andrea might figure out who that person is. Just a little bit about Joe's background. He came to the United States at the age of 18 from a town called Rocca Mandolfi in the province of Isernia. And this is in the beautiful Molise region. If you have not gone there, Stefano, I highly recommend that you take some time to explore Molise. There is so much in this beautiful region. Then, one of the visits is definitely to the Pontifical Bells Foundry, the Campane Marinelli, Isernia itself, Termoli. Just, I could go on and on and on.
Is that in the north, Sud?
No, it's just, if you look at Abruzzo, and it's right underneath. So without, again, any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce one of the most active, most inspirational, and most human Honorary Consul of Italy, Joseph D'Andrea. Buonasera Joe, sei con noi? Senti, velocemente detto, I just quickly share with the audience that you came to the United States when you were 18 years old from beautiful Rocca Mandolfi. Can you tell us a little bit of how you came to the United States, or maybe why you came to the United States?
Bene, saluto prima di tutto a te Viviana e a Stefano, buonasera, e ai tuoi ascoltatori, buonasera a tutti. Io lasciai l'Italia nel 28 dicembre del 47, arrivai qui a New York il 10 gennaio del 48.
So this journey that Joe was, he left Italy on December 28th, 1947, and arrived in New York on January the 10th. That took quite some time to go through the journey at that time. Is that correct, Joe?
Yes, because we could not land on the 9th, since the harbor was full of ships coming from Eastern Europe. many refugees, etc. So we came after. So we landed on the 10th, and on the 13th I came here to Stowe Township with my father, whom I not seen for 10 years.
Wow.
And so my mother 45, my brother 14, and I 18. United for the first time in 10 years.
It must have been I cannot imagine, the emotion on seeing your father again. And you were at the age of 18, where probably you had to make also some, decisions about your further education here, which eventually led you to become a teacher of Spanish and Italian. Tell us a little bit about your studies. What was captivating Joe's attention and curiosity at that time?
Well, so I landed here on 48, and I decided to learn English. The best would be go to with the elementary school with the children, because they talk. They don't know why. You're so stupid. They don't speak English. But anyway, so I was there for 5 months, and Miss Alice, a teacher, elementary school, was a marvelous teacher, taught me English after school using the Sun Telegraph, the newspaper. Mm-hmm. In May, then I graduated, and I went to finish the high school, and then I went to UK University, and from there I went to University of Mexico, Guatemala, University of Pittsburgh, Perugia in Italy, etc. So I chose the West Spanish because I was in love with the Western world. Mm-hmm. Ever since I was in school in Italy, I love the culture, the Indian culture in America, North America, the Incas, the Maya, the Aztecs, in the language. So I wanted to discover this new world. And I threw everything about Italian overseas or aboard in the Atlantic, and I immersed myself in discovering and conquering a new world, which was the Americas.
So maybe I just went a little too fast on, in my initial question, but I wanted to backtrack because one of your nieces, I believe it's Giuseppina Berlingeri. She calls you Zio Peppino. She left us a vocal message where she sends you her love, and she clearly remembers you writing back home, keeping them up to date to what you were doing here in the U.S. and the fact that at the very beginning it was not, non era tutto rose e fiori. It wasn't that easy.
No, rose e fiori. Hai ragione, Viviana. Accenno questo perché fu il primo episodio. Arrivammo tardi, verso le 11 di notte, in questa casuccia, una casetta lì di legno, lasciando una grande casa nel mio paese. Il giorno dopo esco fuori e vedo tutta questa roba sporca che scende dal cielo, fume, fumaggine, eccetera, era carbone che si bruciava nelle fabbriche d'acciaio. Dissi, ma che ho fatto qua? Mi trovo in Scozia. I'm in Scotland here with all this smog, the smoke. And I went inside and I said, Mama, Lucio, to my brother, look at the snow. The snow is black here. What are we doing? We left the beautiful mountains, etc., etc. Well, naturally, there was work in America. Mm-hmm. So that was the first impression.
Yes. So she was referring to these comments of, as you said, coming here to the U.S., noticing also how the houses were built in wood, and a little difference between the smaller home that you had here versus a beautiful home that you left behind, and these getting used to the smog because of the steel mills being very active at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph, come stai?
Yes.
Sono Stefano.
Buonasera Stefano, buonasera, come va?
Non c'è male. Actually, ho due domande per te. You studied Spanish. Sono curioso. Do you still speak Spanish?
Oh, sì, seguo i programmi in spagnolo, la televisione, le partite di calcio, eccetera, sì, ancora lo parlo.
Okay, so the media now allows you to even watch the games in Spanish.
That's That's right. That's right.
I was always curious because you said you had a very interesting way to learn Inglese. You said you went back to school, and I'm always curious because sto imparando l'italiano, and it's difficult when you go to a country where they don't speak the language that you're trying to learn. So at the time in Pittsburgh, I'm guessing there weren't a lot of Spanish speakers here.
No, we're not. No.
No, adesso è different. But the other thing, at some point, now you studied and you went to school and you taught for a while. Now this is the big question because I'm very curious. At some point, you became an honorary consul, and I would love to know how did that happen and what does that mean? Okay,
that's a very good question, Steve. Well, in November 82, November 82, it was a Friday afternoon. I'm at home and I receive a phone call from Philadelphia. I answer, and this is the Console Generale d'Italia, Dottor Cassini. Vorrei parlare con Giuseppe D'Andrea, il professore. It is I'm speaking. He said, I'm considering you as an honorary consul of Italy in Pittsburgh. I was flabbergasted. I was shocked. And I said, Italy calls on me. The many, many years, Italy calls on me. How can it be? Well, I said, I cannot give an answer now. He said, well, I need an answer by 3:15 p.m. Well, okay, I hang up. I talked to Gloria, my wife, and she said, you better take it because when you retire from teaching, what are you going to do? You're too active to do nothing. So I answered back, I'll consider it. So at 3:15, I called Dr. Cassini and I said, I'll consider it. He said, well, get a plane and fly here on Monday morning for a meeting. Well, I fly to Philadelphia. I met with Dr. Cassini and his assistant, and they said to me, well, this is very, very molto riservato, very confidential. This meeting, from now on, you talk to no one about what we're doing. I was surprised. I don't know what it meant by that. But later on, the following year, I find out. Well, so we discussed, and he said, 20 hours a week. Well, 20 hours, it's not bad. I can do on Saturday and Sunday after work, so forth. So I said, I'll consider it. And he sent papers, and I was investigated for 2 generations. I had to wait, and in December, they announced, and ufficiale, they announced that Giuseppe D'Andrea era nominato console onorario d'Italia a Pittsburgh.
Interessante.
Poi a gennaio, il 20...
Joseph, una domanda. If you don't mind me asking, because first off, I'm always impressed with the fact that you remember these details. Now, if you don't mind answering, I'm going to ask, quanti anni hai?
Bravo. 92. 92 anni.
Now, for our listeners who don't speak Italian, that's 92 years old. Now, Joseph remembers 3 p.m. on a Friday, in 1982. Joseph, non riesco a ricordare what I ate for breakfast today.
It's just good DNA. It's that good Italian DNA.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast today.
Le pillole italiane, non lo so perché sono ancora qua. E così il 26 gennaio 83 presi questo giuramento davanti alla comunità italiana e fu nominato prima vice console onorario e poi console. Mm-hmm. Il dovere del console va dal Trattato di Ginevra, ma rimonta anche ai tempi dei Romani. Il console rappresenta la Repubblica Italiana in quel territorio datosi, che era Pittsburgh, e la Pennsylvania occidentale e West Virginia.
Okay, so just for our English-speaking audiences, if you can just remind them of the date that you, commence your mandate. I think that's how you say. And what is the duty of a consul? If you can just repeat that in English for our audience.
Yes, the primary duty of a consul, to protect and defend the interests of the national you represent. That is, to protect and defend the interests of the Italians in the territory you represent, which was Western Pennsylvania, West Virginia. And for that, there are other duties too. There are cultural sides, like promotion of culture of Italy, promote the commerce with Italy in the area, which I did in the period.
You did extensively, not just beautifully. I think you were the biggest and the best gift to the Italian community here in Pittsburgh. And I'm actually honored every time I look at either the maps or posters of events that you had organized, some of the books that you donated to the library of Istituto Mondo Italiano. Just as I said, there are not enough words to express the extent that you have gone selflessly to not only just defending interests, so to speak, but there was always food for the mind. And I think you had food for the mind and food for the belly, right? So there were some events.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sì, perché era importante per me far conoscere l'Italia di oggi, non l'Italia del passato che molti sapevano, si parlava la domenica a casa. My interest was let them know Italy of today, or after the war, not Italy of yesterday. Mm-hmm. That they knew. Mm-hmm. So when I was nominated on the 26th of January 1983 officially, I said to the Italian community, I don't know you, you don't know me. Io non vi conosco e non conoscete me, ma vi darò dei calcetti. O mi seguite o cadete in quell'abisso. Mm-hmm. Tutti rimasero sorpresi.
So you kind of told the community, I'm going to throw something to you, like you actually used the word little kicks. So either you're going to follow me or you're going to just fall.
Go in the abyss.
Yes. So, Joe, actually...
Wait, Joe, a quick question. So how many years were you the consul? You were there for quite a bit of time.
From 83 until 1975, 1986, when I had to retire because of age. Honorary Consul can only serve up to age 75. Wow. Then he must resign.
But you're not even that. When he said he's 92 yesterday, he was kidding. It was like he was just born a couple of months ago. So, Joe, let's talk about something else. As I indicated before, you wore really many hats, and one of them was also as historian. And let's actually turn now our conversation towards Ononga and West Virginia. If I remember correctly, there was a mine accident. Can you tell me which year the accident occurred?
In 1907.
1907. And the statistics reported that 360 between men and boys actually lost their lives. And you were able to identify that 171 of them were Italian, and specifically 87 of them were from Molise. When I was talking about this event, which I will ask you to elaborate more to some students of mine, someone actually remembered their mothers talking about. Can you bring us back to the years that you really worked on letting the public know about what happened?
Well, the word Ononga intrigued me at a meeting I had in Washington, D.C., and I put it aside in my files. One day I will go to Ononga. So many years later, in 92, I went to Ononga. I met with local people, and there I discovered something which was abominable, incredible. E là trovai un cimitero, le pietre mortuarie rotte, tutte erbacce, abbandonato, dissi, e incominciai a leggere su queste pietre i posti sono nati. Questi tutti erano molisani. Dissi, oh, caspita, sono un po' vicino al mio paese e non lo sapevo questo. E così subito mi diede da fare una conferenza stampa, fece qui a casa, Post Gazette, l'altra in Italia, andai subito in Italia e incominciai così questo viaggio verso Ononga.
Okay, so just to catch our audience up, so once that Joe visited this town in West Virginia, he noticed something that was really that really broke his heart and caught his attention, which was this abandoned, really let go, cemetery where the tombstones were in pieces, but from what it was left, Joe was able to identify that there were people coming from his own region, and he asked himself, why don't I know about this? And Joe is one of those men that will never stand still. He had to get this situation in his hands and contacted right away the newspapers, both in Italy and here in the U.S. What else? What happened after that, Joe?
Well, my first mentor was Reverend Briggs, who was the priest in Mononga. So I contacted him, we met, and he gave me a pamphlet which he had written about the Mononga mine disaster. With that on hand, at that time I was a member of the Italian Consul abroad, so there was a meeting room, and I went to the meeting, and I met with people in my own region, which is Molise region. There I met with Angelo Iapaolo, the province of Isernia. Lui presentò alla provincia il progetto di far conoscere Mononga. He presented the paper to the government of the province, and that's where Mononga took place, and that the anniversary took place and follow up to that.
So in 2007, that was now the anniversary.
Right, correct.
You actually, again, put yourself at work, and who came to remember this mine accident?
Yes, surprisingly, they came from Montreal, from Toronto, from New Jersey, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania. 1,000 people came to this meeting in Mononga, West Virginia, on this beautiful winter day and sunny day to salute and remember these martyrs who had died in Mononga. It was overwhelming. I was very happy with the region of Molise then presented to Mononga a bell, a church bell, which arrived just on time, where there's an inscription that the region salutes the martyrs who died in Mononga. And that bell, still today, every day at 10:28, rings at 10:28.
Wow.
Remember the people, the mine explosion.
For people that would like to learn more, there is also the documentary that you worked on with Peter Argentine, Mononga Remembered.
Yes. We have a DVD, and also we have a book. But the book must be purchased through Italy, and it's a book titled Ononga, 100 Years of Oblivion. And it's a complete life of every single miner of Molise. It took about 7 years of work. I would fly from Pittsburgh to Rome and back, and go back in the spring, was on my files, and finally we published it. It was a liberal law, but I loved it because I felt we should honor these martyrs, these men, these children who give their lives in the bowels of the earth.
So with this one last thought, we're going to let you take another breath because we are not done, and we're just going to have another little pubblicità.
Okay.
Applying for dual citizenship, need documents translated, Istituto Mondo Italiano provides certified translation and interpretation services in 20 different languages. Be sure to visit us at istitutomondoitaliano.org.
Okay, Joe, I hope we gave you enough time to maybe get a sip of water because I cannot let you go. So obviously, one of the trends that I personally have noticed through the work that we do at Istituto Mondo Italiano is a huge increase of people applying for dual citizenship. And I would like to spend a few minutes. Maybe you can illustrate, for instance, some of the reasons that people are indeed pursuing the dual citizenship.
Okay. When I was in Pittsburgh, in the office of the consulate, many would come for romantic reasons. That is, they were Americans and they want to become Italians, so that's fine. But there was a practical side. Being an Italian citizen meant you were the citizen of Europe. It was work for work. Baseball players, hockey managers, for example, who played here, they were able to play in Italy if they could prove to me or to the Italian government that their ancestor was Italian. And a number of them became American citizens. Also for work. One because he works in London, I remember. One in Austria. Many were coming in. So the reason for citizenship is a practical one, but it's also this romantic one.
Mm-hmm.
I was one American. I want to become Italian again. That's part of it. It is not easy today.
No, and Joe, it's funny you say that. The tracing the lineage is important, and when I started to just kind of do the research, I learned that I was eligible to become a dual citizen. What I do notice, and I kind of want to warn people, is it's not that it's hard, but you got to do your homework. Maybe just real quick, Joe, like what are some things, like you did this for years, and so you understand the whole apostilles and certified copies and all the technicalities. What are some of the things that if you were going to tell someone and you said, oh, you want to become a dual citizen, here's what you should start, here's what you should do. What advice would you give them?
Okay, now someone comes to my office and says, well, I want to become Italian citizen. Well, first I said, your father, where was he born? Well, he was born in the United States. Fine. Okay, let's go back. Well, your grandfather was born in Italy. Did your grandfather become an American citizen when your father was born? I don't know. Well, let's write to the office in Philadelphia and find out. So he gets a citizenship paper and he finds that his father was born in America, and his grandfather, the applicant was born in America, and his nonno, the grandfather, was born in Italy. He never became Italian. He never acquired citizenship. Therefore, he gives it to his grandson. It's called de jure sanguinis, by blood.
Right.
And the document is simple. You act first a birth certificate, a marriage certificate if you're married. They must go to Harrisburg for an apostille. Apostille is a seal that the state Commonwealth of Pennsylvania places on it. Then you must have the document, the birth certificate, marriage certificate of your grandfather, etc. And then a letter which says that you never acquired the citizenship. That comes from the American government. Put all this together. It's a lot of paperwork. You know that.
But that is the fun, right?
That's right. That's the joy. And interestingly, Joe, in my case, it is actually as far back as my bisnonno. So it's not even my grandfather. It's my great-grandfather. So a lot of people, you said something key. It's when they came here, as long as if they became a U.S. citizen, when. And sometimes in my case, he never became a U.S. citizen. He died before he got his U.S. citizenship. So it was very easy. Now, for the record, sto aspettando it takes a while for them to process it. So even when you get all the paperwork and submit it, it still takes a year or two Or, I don't know. So
Well,
I'm waiting about a
And
year.
that is something I don't seem to understand. In my days, it was done in a few months. Now it takes 2-3 years.
Well, what happens is also with people staying more and longer at home. I mean, we saw a huge spike in requests indeed for the translation of these vital documents because that's kind of our bread and butter in addition to the Italian classes. And they discovered what I call, the box in the, the shoe box in the closet with, the documents that allow them to determine that they were indeed eligible. So a lot of people now do have some of that time available. By the way, while we're still engaged in the conversation, if there are any callers that want to either share a comment about the process, if they have gone through it, or have a question for Joe, or might just want to say ciao, you can call us at 412-825-6262. We're going to open up the lines in just 1 minute. For instance, just going back to some of the reasons and the benefits of the dual citizenship, I, as a professional, actually benefit from it because when I came in the U.S. and I was working for a multinational company, I was able to be sent to overseas to Belgium and being within the pioneer team that set up the new offices there because I did have my Italian passport. Therefore, I could switch on to, the Belgian.
European.
Exactly. So if you have children or if you're professionals, it's a huge, huge wild card on this very competitive job market that you can be transferred within not just Italy, but all the other countries that participate in the European Union. It looks like we might actually have a caller. Hello, who do we have on the line?
Hi, my name's Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Do you have a question for Joe, or do you have a comment on the dual citizenship?
Well, I kind of have a comment. I went through the process myself, and it's exactly as was described in a lot of ways. But I think these days there's a lot of technology that can really help people. A lot of websites out there that have information from Italy, birth records, and things like that. That can really help people establish, whether or not they have that, legal connection back to Italy, and whether they can try to claim Italian citizenship as well.
Joseph, that's a good point. When you were the consulate, you had to do a lot of this. This was a lot of paper. There was no online.
It was all my correspondence or fax. Remember the fax machine?
Oh, yes, the fax.
what?
The fax? Okay.
But to the caller's point, though, I know that a lot of the Italian provinces and comunes have put a lot of that paperwork online. So you can search and kind of immediately get your, make a determination of whether, you can go through your father. It's through the father's bloodline. So your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, whomever.
Just very quickly, Ryan, what prompted you to connect with the Italian side of your heritage?
Well, it's really about kind of recapturing, my family's heritage. Both of my grandmothers were Italian, but they were part of that generation kind of around World War II where there was a push to Americanize, and so they kind of severed the line in terms of language and things like that, but we still kept the culture, the family, the food, the hand-waving that my husband likes to make fun of me for. But reestablishing my connection to Italy through citizenship was it was a way for me to reconnect to my heritage in a very personal and I guess legal way.
Wonderful. And also for those of you that are listening, the application for dual citizenship is not just through bloodline. So it is also through marriage. So if you are married to an Italian citizen, whether they were Italian citizens at birth or gained Italian citizenship, there is now a new language requirement that was put in a few years ago. You don't have to worry. Istituto Mondo Italiano is indeed the certified center here in the Pittsburgh area. So you will be well taken care of. So Ryan, thank you for calling in. We have time for maybe just one additional caller. Let's see who we have on the line.
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Mrs. Mary Michael.
Hi, Mary Michael.
Hi, Viviana.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for listening and tuning in. So, yes, I do know about your tenacious work with applying for dual citizenship. Tell us a little bit about your family background and how and when you might have you decided to apply for dual citizenship.
So let's see. My maternal grandparents are from outside of Venice, and I'm applying for Italian citizenship through my maternal grandfather. And the reason I decided to apply was I attended a genealogy workshop that you presented at the Heinz History Center in 2018, and I thought that since I was eligible, I would see how far I could get, and so far.
Yes, indeed. And if you had some documents already from Italy in your possession. That made the process a little easier. But the nice thing is that you are not keeping this. You're keeping it not secret, but what can I say? You're sharing the gift with other family members, right? So after you have applied...
my brothers have both applied. That's right. I started the ball rolling.
Exactly.
And now both of them have applied for Italian citizenship, and my children will apply for citizenship after I get my citizenship. So I have all their documents ready to go, too, as soon as I hear back from Roberto.
Mm-hmm.
That's, by the way, I'm also waiting for Roberto. And the funny that you say that, because I started the paperwork and now I have a sneaky suspicion my family's waiting for mine to get approved. Again, we're waiting for Roberto. Mary, we any questions for Joe, though? We got Joe on the line.
I don't think so. Can you put a fire under Roberto?
There's your question. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mary. We appreciate the call, though.
Thank you. And I cannot wait until we can call each other connazionali. I hope very soon.
Ecco.
Okay. We have another caller. Who's calling, please?
The line is hot tonight.
I know.
He's on fire. Who do we have on the line?
Hi, it's Kathy calling.
Hi, Kathy. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Marysville.
Okay, Kathy, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience, or if you have questions for Joe that is still kindly on the line with us?
Well, we started the procedure of dual citizenship, a couple of years ago. But unfortunately, COVID has made our life terrible in the sense that we had an appointment in January that was canceled by the Philadelphia consulate, January of last year, and was rescheduled for this January. In fact, it was supposed to be on January 25th, and lo and behold, I and many others had their appointments canceled again, and we're in a state of limbo because the consulate has not opened their pre notice site where you actually are able to make an appointment. It has not been open probably for about a year and a half, 2 years, and we waited for 2.5 years for an appointment. So I'm hoping that maybe someday before I die.
Oh, Kathy.
So my question for Joe is there anything we can do. Those of us that had our appointments canceled not once, but twice by the Philadelphia
accendete un
consulate.
cero. Li dà pecchetto.
Joe, can they fly directly to the commune in Italia and have them write it in the books? Maybe make it a little easier.
No, no. You have to go back to Pittsburgh. The question is, I would like the people who have all these problems write a letter to the Minister of Italy, the Foreign Affairs, De Moio, and say to them to staff the consulate.
See?
What's missing is staffing.
See?
Employees. Staff the consulate and make it easier. But as long as we have the number of people we have now employed, it's not going to work. Because the demand is so high. And the people employed in Philadelphia are a handful, 2 or 3. They cannot handle all of it. That's the problem.
Kathy, just sorry to change topic, but is your lovely husband Tony by you?
He is somewhere in the room.
Okay.
Where is he?
So, Joe, do you
yes.
remember, Joe, when I said one of my students, and now obviously the voices through the radio, I didn't recognize Kathy at the very beginning, but now I know the Kathy that is calling us. Her husband, Tony, is the one that remember something, being told to him when he was a younger kid about the Ononga accident. So if Tony is around...
Tony, do you want to say something about the accident briefly?
Welcome to live radio, folks.
My mother's parents came from Norcia in Umbria. And when they initially came over, they settled in southern West Virginia, and he worked in a coal mine. And she used to tell me the story when I was young that when she lived there, that there was an explosion that she described like a volcano erupted. And over the years, I always thought she was just like 5, 6 years old when she witnessed this. She probably was exaggerating. But later on, I saw an article about that particular town where they lived, and it described a slag heap that had erupted like a volcano. And it described it almost exactly the way she had remembered it. So it was
just to remember this, in the year 1907, 3,500 people died in a mine in America.
Wow.
3,500. It didn't make headlines. America was only 115 million people, and yet so many died, and many were Italians. You know, the Italian story, the railroad ties, the coal, the bricks are bathed with the sweat and tears and blood of the immigrants. I said this in Italiano. I legami ferroviari, i carboni, i mattoni, sono bagnati dal sangue, dal sudore.
Yes, so
le lacrime degli italiani. Ovunque, io ho fatto ricerche, oggi ne ho trovate 20 ancora, 20 italiani morti qui.
20 more Italians
E continuo a trovarli.
perished.
È una cosa incredibile.
Yes, that's really
the
sad.
irony, Joseph, is that when you talk about people talk about work conditions nowadays, and you think 100 years. I mean, they just don't understand how bad it was.
Right, Roberto. I mean, Vincenzo. Excuse me. Stefano. C'è una lettera
So much for the memory.
scritta da un emigrante combinatore, dice così al padre: caro padre, ti mando 20 lire per Natale. Tu continui a scrivermi e chiedere cosa faccio, e lui risponde: non vedo né la luna né la pioggia, solo la luna. Non vedo né il sole né la pioggia, solo la luna. Questo è il mio mondo. Pochi giorni dopo morì nel Ononga.
So just I took brief notes, but it was indeed the correspondence between a son and the father.
And the father, that's
that would
correct.
send 20 years to continue the correspondence, and the father would always ask him, what do you do? And pretty much to summarize, he was not seeing the sun, he was seeing just the moon, because he worked in the mine, and unfortunately shortly after perished.
But there's another episode which I would like you to mention, Viviana and Stefano. In Pennsylvania, in 1943, 1945, there was a prisoners of POW camps of Italian prisoners of war near Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. 1,214 Italians were there. And they left behind the most beautiful chapel and Florentine bell tower, designed and built by these Italian POWs in Letterkenny near Chambersburg. Un regalo all'America.
See, Joseph, you and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
Joseph, unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I want to just say, as usual, it was wonderful to talk to you. You have an incredible understanding of history. You represent history. You have been around. You have seen it all. You have done it all. And we want to thank you again for joining us. And Joseph, we're going to try and bring you back.
Absolutely. As I said, the 20 episodes would not be enough. We just kind of scratched the surface. But come diceva Enzo Tortora, il Big Ben ha detto stop. It's time for us to...
Ok, and in bocca al lupo.
Crepi il lupo.
Auguri, Crepi.
Buona serata, Joe. Grazie di nuovo.
Prego. Ciao, buonanotte.
Okay, and we want to thank you all again for listening. We want to thank our guest, Dr. Joseph D'Andrea. And grazie, Joseph. Sei un caro amico. But before we leave, as you kind of picked up from the theme, we believe that you all have a story to tell, and we actually want to hear your story. I think a lot of people don't think that their trip to America or their family's trip to America is interesting, or from Italy to America is interesting, but we do. So we want to hear your story, and you can email us at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. Or if you're interested in sponsoring an episode, again, please send an email to theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Viviana, before we leave, though, who's going to be our guest next week?
Well, next week, we're going to have another big guest that people from the Pittsburgh community are definitely going to recognize. We're talking about Sam Patty, and the face and the founder of La Prima Espresso. But we are going to highlight also some of his work as the president of the Foundation for Italian Diaspora Studies.
I'm not going to lie. When you said La Prima Coffee, I immediately got excited because I do like their coffee.
Hai proprio ragione. So, again, for those that might have missed last week's episode, or maybe want to listen to this week's episode again, or share it with their family and friends, you can find the episodes onto the website of Istituto Mondo Italiano, and that will be www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. You can click on the tab The Italian Radio Hour. Vorrei ringraziare il nostro ospite, il dottor Joseph D'Andrea, our sponsor Istituto Mondo Italiano, e Alla Boara for the music. And finally, before we leave, here is our next language trivia for the week. So, Stefano, how would you complete the following expression? A caval donato, ... One more time. A caval donato, ... Be the first to answer correctly to this little trivia of the week by sending your answer to theitalianradiohour@gmail.com.
And we want to thank the folks that emailed for last week's trivia question. We actually enjoyed reading those, so thank you again. And if you are not in the Pittsburgh area, or you might be traveling, remember, you can catch us streaming live at khbradio.com every Thursday at 5 p.m. And be sure to like us on Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour. Until next time, alla prossima.
Ciao, ciao.
The Italian Radio Hour has been sponsored by Istituto Mondo Italiano.